So, welcome to the webinar about competition. My name is Robert Koning. I'm a serial entrepreneur as well as an investor. I have my own company in Germany supporting startups in growing their business and do whatever we need to do to support them. So, what's about competition? Why is it so important to know them? Who are they? What are they doing? In which area do they compete with us? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses, etc., etc. So these issues I would like to cover in this webinar, as well as providing you some tools to be able to analyze your competition. So yeah, let's start. The first slide, it shows you the three types of competitors. I always differentiate them into direct competitors, indirect, as well as the replacement competitors. The direct competitors is someone that offers the same products with the same end game. They make money from the same thing you do. So yeah, just to provide you with an example, PlayStation is a direct competitor of the Xbox. They make games aimed at children and adults and seek to derive revenue directly from those games. The indirect competitors, similar product, perhaps different categories. Indirect competitors, they also serve your audience and have similar offerings, but not equal ones. They're usually in a different business category. Just an example for that, for Coca-Cola, their indirect competitor, I would say, could be San Pellegrino, the sparkling water. Replacement competitors, and that is a little bit more tricky one. Replacement competitor is something someone could do instead of choosing your product. They are the most, as I said, challenging competitors to identify. And as you continue to develop and adjust your competitive intelligence strategies, make sure that you're not ignoring any type of this competition. Don't forget about the direct ones, indirect, and especially, as I mentioned, the replacement competitors. And they all pose a unique threat to your specific industry or branch. As for Coca-Cola, just to get back to the replacement one, could also be the San Pellegrino table water, or coffee, or tea, or any juice brands. So none of these are carbonated drinks, same category, but are the direct or indirect, nor but they are the replacement competitors. The next two slides will provide you with some examples on what are direct, what are indirect, and what are replacement. If you look at the car manufacturers, for example, you'll have the direct competitors, which are Audi, Volkswagen, Mercedes, Chrysler, and you name them. The indirect ones are the taxi drivers, the bus providers, the train, nowadays Google, or a bike could also be an indirect competition. Replacement ones, at the moment, difficult to say, but if technology comes and we can be beamed over a certain distance, that could be a replacement competitor for the car manufacturers. The next slide is an example from my study in St. Gallen, where the professor gave us an exercise to define the replacement competition and look at a certain market. And we forgot about the genetic expert, which actually invented high quality lawn seed, which doesn't grow longer than 8 centimeters. So a completely disruptive technology. And our company, we were manufacturers of these lawnmowers, would have been hit very hard and probably would have gone bankrupt if we would have forgotten about this genetic expert. So yeah, as you see, it's very important to have a look at all of these different categories and make sure that you capture them all. Over time, also implement systems to prevent some competitors hitting you. Lots of examples of huge international enterprises which got bankrupt or which got hit very hard within a short period. Just to name them, Sony Ericsson is not there anymore, or Nokia has been hit very hard, and the phones are not even existing anymore, although they were the biggest mobile phone provider and manufacturer in the world. So the next slide, it shows you a little spreadsheet, a tool which you can use to do a competitor analysis. Just on the left hand side, write down the competitor name and which area is he competing with you. Then write down the competitor's strengths as well as your own weaknesses. On the next column, you should write down the competitor weaknesses and then your own strengths. And from that, you can write which actions are needed to secure your own position. And on the right-hand side, write down which actions are needed to expand your competitive situation. That is very important to know, especially start with naming them, then take the weaknesses, strengths, situation, and then define the actions which are required to enable a good position in the market. On the next slide, it's a typical SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. On the left-hand side, you will do the internal analysis. You just look at the strengths you have. You look at the weaknesses as well from an internal point of view. So you just look at your company and look at what kind of strengths. As I said, do you have personal strengths? Do you have technology strengths? Do you have a certain know-how which your competitor doesn't have, etc., etc. On the right-hand side, you will do the external analysis, meaning you need to check the opportunities in the market as well as compared to the competition, and also see the threats which might come. Remember the lawnmower machine manufacturer, he should have seen the genetic expert, because that was a big threat for this manufacturer. So on the next slide, it just shows you a market overview and gathers the competitors to see and position them into a matrix to show in which position you are and how the landscape looks like. It gives you a good overview. From this picture, you can adapt some strategic decisions on whether you need to grow the relative competitive position towards the relative position in the market. Okay, that was this one. The next one is, an easy one. If quality is important in your market, the customer is reacting very sensitive to quality. For example, the medical industry is a very important industry where quality is an issue. It's very good to check the quality versus price. So on the horizontal you find the price, on the vertical you will have the quality. From this you can see whether you need to differentiate. For example, if you go into a very high quality with a low price on this picture, you would have found a niche where you will have probably no competition. So also look at it from this point of view. And the next slide shows you an example on your competitive strength towards the full portfolio of products you provide. Sometimes it's important to fulfill all needs, like if you're a grocery store, not only selling apples or one single product. The size of the circle, which is here, shows how big the revenue of the companies are. And often you see the large companies on the right-hand top corner, and that's why you should probably not go into this unless you have a disruptive technology or anything else. So one slide more on the strengths and the weaknesses. Just have a look, see if this is something you can use. There are different ways of analyzing strengths and weaknesses. You can put a percentage behind it. You can just make a little graph, which is shown here in the middle. So yeah, just I hope that I can provide you with some tools which are suitable to analyze your situation. The next slide and the last one is about Porter. Porter's five forces, developed in 1979 by Michael Porter of the Harvard Business School, as a simple framework for assessing and evaluating the competitive strengths and position in a business organization. Strategic analysts, they often use this Porter's 5 forces to understand whether new products or services are potentially profitable, and I feel this is a very good way of analyzing your competitive strengths and see how you are. By understanding where the power lies, the theory can also be used to identify areas of strengths, to improve weaknesses, or to avoid mistakes. So which are these 5 forces? We have the threat of the new entrants. This force determines how easy or not it is to enter a particular industry. If an industry is profitable and there are a few barriers to enter, rivalry will soon intensify. And you will also see this in your area of business. If you start analyzing these, you will see that that's true. When more organizations compete for the same market share, you will also see that the profit starts to fall, and it's essential for existing organizations to create high barriers to enter, to deter new entrants, and to do it like this. So you will find by analyzing this part that it's important to know. The threats of new entrants is high, for example. When you have a low amount of capital required to enter the market, so it's easy to go into a market. Existing companies do not possess patents, trademarks, or do not have an established brand reputation. There's no government regulation, for example, in these kinds of markets. The customer switching costs are very low. There's low customer loyalty, so the customer switches very easy. The products are nearly identical, and the economies of scale can be easily achieved. The next one is the bargaining power of suppliers. Strong bargaining powers allows suppliers to sell higher priced or low quality raw material to their buyers, and suppliers have strong bargaining power in case there are a few suppliers and a lot of buyers. You have suppliers which are very large. The few substitute raw materials they exist. The supplier holds a scarce resource, and the cost of switching raw material is normally very high. The next one is the bargaining power of buyers. Have a look at that one. Buyers have the power to demand a lower price or higher product quality from industry producers when their bargaining power is strong. Lower price means lower revenues for the producer, while higher quality products usually raise production costs. So that is the scenarios result in lower profits for producers. Buyers exert strong bargaining power in case buying in large quantities or control many access points of final customers. Only a few buyers exist. The switching costs to other suppliers are low. There are many substitutes. You will find that in this segment, and the buyers are price sensitive. The next one, one of the 5 forces, is the threat of substitutes. This force is especially threatening when buyers can easily find substitute products with attractive prices or a better quality, and when buyers can switch from one product or service to another with a very low costs. For example, to switch from coffee to tea, that doesn't really cost anything. It's just switching, unlike switching from a car to a bicycle. And then the final one is the rivalry among existing competitors. This force is the major determinant on how competitive and profitable an industry is. In the competitive industry, firms have to compete aggressively for a market share, which results in a low profit. Rivalry among competitors is intense when there are many competitors. The exit barriers are high. The industry of growth is slow or negative, and the competitors are of an equal size, and there is a very low customer loyalty as well. This tool, understanding this tool, it makes use of to analyze the industry's forces and to shape the organizational strategy according to the results of the analysis. But how to use this tool? We have identified the following steps. It's gather the information on each of the 5 forces. What managers should do during this step is to gather information about their industry and to check it against each of the factors, such as the number of competitors in the industry, influencing this type of force. We've already identified the most important factors, like the threat of new entry, the amount of capital which is required, the legal barriers, brand reputation, and I can mention a lot of these factors: economies of scale, the number of suppliers, or the number of customers. Step number 2 is to analyze the results and display them on a diagram. After gathering all the information, you should analyze the results and determine how each force is affecting your industry. For example, if there are many companies of equal size operating in a slow growth industry, it means that rivalry between the existing companies is very strong. Remember that the 5 forces affect different industries differently, so don't use the same results of analysis for even similar industries. Don't forget to do that. The step number 3 is to formulate the strategies based on the conclusions. At this stage, managers should formulate the company strategies using the results of the full analysis, which we have just gathered when doing all these exercises. So product development strategies should be used if the current market growth is slow and the market is saturated. Although Porter's 5 forces is a great tool to analyze the industry structure and use the results to formulate the company strategy, it has its limitations and requires further analysis. So don't only take the Porter's analysis, also take the previous ones I have shown in the previous slides, and then you can probably define a good company strategy. So I came to the end of this webinar about competitive analysis. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I could provide you with some valuable information. Thank you very much.